Okay, we are going to kick off, and hope that anyone else who pops in can find a lap to sit on. So, final session of what's been a great day. Has it been a great day? Yeah, fab, that's what we like to hear. Some really interesting speakers, certainly in this room, and it's always the tough bit of being a chair is you don't get to hear the other stuff until after it's all over. So I've certainly really had some great sessions in here. Looking forward to the final session of the day. For those of you who haven't heard my boring spiel already, I'm Cathy Morris. I have been coming to this conference for the full 16 years. I think I deserve a badge. I was 5 when I first came. So this is an event that I'm very passionate about. I have held a number of senior global learning and development and leadership development roles in organisations like Thomson Reuters and most recently Royal Sun Alliance, where I was Group Head of Leadership Development. But I now work for myself in that field and spend a lot of time doing this stuff at conferences, which is a great pleasure because it gets to get to meet a lot of good people and see some familiar faces as well. So housekeeping, fire exits, so just clock where they are and head out of them if the alarm goes off. But we've been hearing a lot today around kind of the shift and the change and what's actually required of us as a profession in terms of how we deliver and what we deliver. And the final piece of it is how do we know we've delivered? And this is all around learning impact, this session. So it's really kind of, somebody asked a question right at the outset in Nigel and Suzanne's session this morning around, well, you know, we're talking about it all being kind of learner-friendly and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, we're still asked for those results. So how do we marry that up? How do we marry giving what the learners need with proving that ROI that is so important to the business? And so we've got 2 great speakers to talk to us this afternoon for this last session, which will go on to 4:30. Just very quickly to introduce both of them, and then I'll say a little bit more about Richard. But we've got Richard Gregory here, who has come from Rentokil, where value is absolutely imperative to really making sense of all the learning he delivers. And it's really how does he go about demonstrating that to the business. So I'll say a little bit more about him in a second. And then Sue Husband from McDonald's. I'm sure it's no news to you that McDonald's are renowned for some amazing training initiatives. And they are really among the UK's largest training organisations, particularly for young people. So we'll talk a little bit more about Sue when I introduce her. We'll have Richard, then Sue, and then, as usual format, 10 minutes or so for Q&A at the end where you get to ask those burning questions. And I'm sure they'll be happy to continue the conversation over a glass of alcohol afterwards. Right, so without further ado, just to introduce Richard a little bit more, he's got a good learning industry background, particularly with Accenture consulting across a number of sort of international and large industries, and also government organisations, so quite a broad spectrum. In Rentokil, they've got 65,000 employees internationally, and this is really at the coalface of the training. It's not just the normal kind of training that we, perhaps in a corporate environment, are used to. So his big challenge, joining Rentokil a year ago, has been all around kind of thinking differently about how you approach the learning side of things, and then how do you make sure that you know that it's doing what you've said it's going to do. So Richard, I'd like you to kick us off, please.
It's always nice to come to one of these conferences and speak in front of my peers, so I'm keen to get your thoughts at the end of this as much as a diatribe from me. So as Cathy said, I head up something that was called U+. U+ was originally founded as a global university about 2 years ago. And as is often the case with these type of things, it didn't really gain much traction for the first year. And I was asked to come and join and head up this entity that's got a very strange name about 12 months ago to really embed it within the organisation. And I think, as Cathy said, the one thing that I'm a big fan of Apple, and the one thing that always sticks in the back of my mind was Steve Jobs' phrase, or 2 phrases, one around thinking differently and one around simplifying things. And that was the challenge when I came to Rentokil Initial, is how can we actually do something different? We're a slightly different company, an entrepreneurial company than maybe a normal multinational, but also I think we have to think differently as a learning profession. Are we really meeting the demands of the learners and the demands of the business? Or, I would challenge, are we actually providing a solution to actually a problem that the business doesn't actually have? And that was certainly the case. So what do we do? You've probably all heard Rentokil. Rentokil Initial, we're across 3 main industries. Rentokil Pest Control, you'll be pleased to hear I've not brought any bed bugs or rats with me today. Initial, which is focused on facilities management, medical, hygiene, textile services, and then Ambius. And Ambius is a big brand in the United States and provide things like Christmas trees to organizations and plants. We've got a very diverse workforce. Out of about 65,000 employees, probably about 40,000 of those are actually on the coalface. Very similar to Sue, what's key for them, or what's key for us to train them in the business is simple things like, how do you greet a customer? Do you actually smile at a customer? Maybe not the Excel training or the leadership skills that we might be used to in a corporate environment. We operate in 50 different countries across the globe, from everywhere as diverse as Kenya to the UK to North America and the Pacific. And our biggest challenge, or one of our biggest challenges, is 32 different languages. How do you provide learning, whether it's in LMS or content, to 32 different languages? My experience with Accenture is it's hard enough to provide it in just the key European ones, but how do you do Bali or Hindu and those type of options? And at the end of the day, we've got to provide training to those people because they're dealing with dangerous chemicals, trying to solve a lot of challenges that a lot of you guys will probably face back in your businesses. Quick heads up around the size of the team. We've actually grown from me 12 months ago to, I think we've probably got 7, 8, 20, 30 different people across the globe. And that's quite a large learning organization. And I think it's testament that we've been able to grow and actually been able to get money from the business to grow to this side in that we've proved very, very quickly that we can make an impact and we can solve those business challenges. And the proof is in the pudding. We talk around learning impact. I would argue to get money in the current climate when we're all being asked to do more for less, that's almost ticking the box for me around investment and whether we're delivering value for the organization. We talk around return on investment, and as I just said, we can study Kirkpatrick and we can all think around how do we measure levels 1 to 5, but I took a far more simplistic approach. And how do we actually get our learning organization to think about the value that they deliver to the business on a daily basis? And how do we show in a very simplistic way to the business that we're delivering value? Yeah, I could roll out probably a 100-page slide deck around, well, actually, we're improving knowledge retention by 20%, or I can get my pest controllers to smile 5% more. But actually, a lot of the business leaders and MDs in the organization aren't really that bothered about it. They want to know, are we solving their problems? So a good example in the UK, we're losing a lot of market share to other competitors in the medical sector because they're providing free training to our customers. That's a challenge that we need to solve. We don't just need to provide a solution and a glossy LMS internally. So we're very business facing. And what I find in my 8 years with Accenture is that actually a lot of organizations from a learning perspective think of doing things and structuring their strategy and governance in one way, and I wanted to think differently. They often say we're experts. We all sit in this room and think we're L&D experts and that we know the best. We create things such as centers of excellence, which actually, if we're honest and we go out to countries, they actually don't have a clue what a center of excellence is. We often say, keep calm, the group knows best. There's one way of doing things, and actually there probably isn't. And we take the decision that we want to combine all our suppliers into one global supplier who's going to be able to provide training courses in 32 different languages across the globe, and that suddenly someone in the UK knows how best to train someone in China. And it's a load of rubbish. We asked for a pot of money. We don't really know why we need that pot of money, but we always ask to increase it year on year. And then we worry about cuts when it comes to budget time. And we therefore tend to store it. And do we use it very sensibly? Or we throw it away and we spend it frivolously. I can see people nodding. This is the case that happens in a lot of organizations. And it's scary as we sit here as learning professionals, because there must be a better way of doing things. And then one last thing. Once we've got our money, we think, budget, crikey. The next round of budgets is coming up, and I suddenly need to prove return on investment all over again to actually get my pot of gold. And it goes in a bit of a cyclical round circle, doesn't it? Where we're suddenly asking for more money, and then we're trying to prove a return on our investment, and we do it. If we're lucky, we actually design courses with return on investment in there at the start, or if we're not lucky, and is often the case, we start to scrabble around once we've launched a course as to prove, is it effective for an organisation? And so I thought, when I came into Rentokil Initial, green landscape, there's got to be a better way to structure a learning organisation. There's got to be a better way for us to prove that we provide a service to the business. And there is another way, I believe. And I coined the phrase, learning as a service. What if we were to take the consultancy model and actually bring that in-house? Actually think about the learning function truly providing a service to the business. And not just the business in terms of managers, but the business as the learner. The one thing that shocked me as I'm walking around the auditorium downstairs today, you go and speak to all the vendors and all the LMS vendors and all the supplier vendors, and what are they talking about? They're talking about, well, there's 20 different ways to configure a product, and we can deliver SaaS. And I'm not really sure I've heard actually anyone mention the actual end user and end learner around that. And we're kind of missing the point. You don't see Apple focus on the enterprise manager. They focus on the end user, and they think, actually, what does the end user need? One size doesn't fit all. How can I actually sit here in the UK and say you all must use an LMS globally across the world when I can't actually provide any learning courses in Hindu? And actually, why am I asking the business to pay thousands of pounds to grant user licenses to a performance or a succession or a talent management system when actually in Greece they're struggling to retain the customers that they've got? Is this really a priority, and is this really business focused? And a good example of that is two of our markets. The US, well established, probably does have a need for some of these things. We've got the war on talent in the US. We probably do need to look at succession planning. But take, for example, the Czech Republic. Actually, there's about 20 employees over there. Do I need to deliver fully fledged LMS with 2,500 courses that actually, let's be honest, no one ever actually goes in and looks at, or if they do, they probably only access 5 out of the 2,500. So how can I glocalize? You'll often hear people talk about global and localization. I suppose my learning as a service is a bit like that. How can I actually provide an internal market? How can I actually say, you know what? The price of an Apple or the price of a user license on an LMS is X. The price of actually this course is Y. Go fill your boots. You choose. Here's the shopping list of services we provide. If you want us to come out and do some instructional design or work with you, that's fine, but it's got a cost associated with it. So immediately, we're being quite open and transparent with the business. You want access to a LMS, it's going to cost you £10. You want access to these courses, it's going to cost you £20. You choose as a local business what your requirements are. If in China, you can actually go and provide and go and secure a local vendor for half the price, why should I at centre be saying, well, oh no, you've got to pay double the amount of price? How can we provide that shopping list? And certainly from my experience, a lot of organisations, they've got that big pot of money, but actually, do they know how it's broken up? Quick show of hands, how many of you actually know your cost per user of access to your LMS or your talent management system? I would say, what's that, 5 out of maybe 100 people? How much does it cost a user to access your content library? Anyone track that? Fantastic. How much does it cost to actually produce a piece of e-learning? We might know in hours. Which organisation, where are you going? Brilliant, yeah. And I think it's actually, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not an uncommon, especially in the logistics industry, my experience, everything is line itemed. You know how much it's going to cost to deliver a parcel to wherever it is in the world. And actually, if you think around your product or your sales and marketing departments, when your companies are actually going out to their customers, they actually do this value-based costing. So why are we not doing it as an internal function when actually you can automate a lot of this? Our shopping list, as I said, pick and choose the elements that you want. If the US wants a fantastic, fully integrated talent management system, great, we'll provide that for you, and here's the price. We'll reduce the cost because we can do it globally, and we'll provide the center of expertise, but we're not suddenly going to force the Czech Republic to launch a system that, quite frankly, they don't need. And it's all about commoditizing learning, because at the end of the day, if our MDs and our business and our colleagues know how much something costs, they can put a value on it. They can compare it to actually what can they get locally, and they can actually immediately determine, are we good value for money as an internal function, or actually are we expensive? Or do we actually just ask for that lump sum, add it to the balance sheet, and how many of our MDs out there in different countries, or how many actually know what we deliver or what we can deliver for that line item on the balance sheet? How hidden is it, or how transparent is it? Like I say, you go in a supermarket, Tesco's doesn't tell you what you have to buy. They say, actually, here's the selection. You can compare your prices of oranges with Aldi or whoever. And again, one of the things that we use Cornerstone as our LMS, and it's a great LMS because it can actually do a lot of the calculations, and we're not creating a cottage industry around some of the mechanics around the pricing. It's all built in. But one of the things that when I joined the organization, people said to me is actually, we've got a great LMS. Clearly someone has sat at Global and looked at all the different widgets and all the different things that you can buy, and they've gone a bit like a kid in a sweet shop. We'll have this, 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 and this, and here you go, business. Here's the best looking LMS that is possibly out there. And actually, one of the things that I did was, again, took the Apple approach and actually said, why are people visiting our LMS? It'd be great that they visit of their own free will to learn and develop, but actually, let's be honest, where Rentokil Initial is, it's probably because we need to send them on compliance training, or they're not going to go there. We're not as mature a learning organization that they're going to go there of their own free will. So how can we actually strip it back? And in one sense, I should have put the before picture on here, because this is our stripped back LMS. And we said, look, if people want to learn something, what do most people go and do? If I want to learn how to do a function or a formula in Excel, probably just type it into Google, don't I? And I get a YouTube video. So actually, why not adopt that same consumerization approach to our LMS and actually provide the business something that they want, rather than actually something that we think they want? And ultimately, content is king. Again, a bit of a show of hands, if you may. How many of you have got an LMS that's actually stacked to the rafters with selection of Skillsoft content? I mean, when I joined the organization, we had 2,500 different learning objects in there, of which, ironically, only 90 had ever been actually accessed. Yeah. We're making life hard for our learners, and then we're wondering why they turn around and they say we're not providing a great service. Because ultimately, a lot of my businesses don't want that. They want something like this. They don't want a standard bookshelf. They want a selection of books. They probably want some guitars or videos in there. And actually, how can you commoditize what you're offering to the business? So it's not one size fits all. And we built, as I showed you earlier, a content development center. So how do we build our own internal content? As I said, we quite clearly cost that out. So very similar. So we can immediately show the business, actually, I can develop a 30-minute e-learning course for about £600. I could let our SMEs develop it locally. It's free minus the license cost, or I could go out to a third-party supplier. Here you go, business. These are the different options. You make the choice, empowering the business to make the decisions, because at the end of the day, I truly believe that people we've got in the organization will make the right decisions. They're doing it on a day-to-day basis. Why do we suddenly need to think that group knows best and it's one size fits all? And again, the Content Development Centre's grown, and we not only provide e-learning, we provide mobile learning, we provide podcasts, webcasts, e-books, videos. Interestingly, and a good example, the CEO came to me the other day and said, Richard, can you do a talking head video? I want to launch something. Can the guys do it? How much would it cost? And I can turn around to him and say, actually, you know what? It will cost £800 because actually, roughly speaking, it's 1 day's worth of development time. And he turned around to me and said, oh, well, last year when we did it, it cost £8,000 because we went to an external supplier. Bang. There is your return on investment. Very, very clear without having to worry about surveys and how many people fill in. We've structured the learning department that all the 20 or 30 people are constantly thinking about how do they provide and what they provide to the business on a daily basis. So, hopefully that's food for thought. I know there are different organizations and different structures, and just as one size doesn't fit all from a learning perspective, certainly one size doesn't fit all around how we should structure a learning department in it. From my experience, again, it does vary, but all I'd like to do is leave you with a bit of food for thought about, is there a different way? Actually, rather than looking around all these different surveys, and is there a more simpler way to actually structure the strategy, the governance, the way that you provide learning as a service to your organization, so there is a clear link to impact and a clear link to value in everything you do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to shut up there and hand over to Sue, because I'm really interested. I was saying to Sue, not only do I like Big Macs, but also, and caramel sundaes, I should say, but also it's a bit more sexy, isn't it, than rats and cockroaches. But also, we've been trying to set up an apprentice scheme and some of the stuff that I think McDonald's does so well. So I'm maybe going to take a seat in the audience and maybe listen to you, because at the end of the day, that's what we're all here. And maybe when we get to Q&As at the end, from your examples of DHL and Deutsche Post, maybe you want the opportunity to share, because at the end of the day, we all learn, and we don't stop learning, and we shouldn't learn, because that's why we're here today.
Thank you very much. Well, hopefully that's given you a nice sort of thought-provoking idea around how you can maybe think about things a bit differently, maybe think about them a bit more simply, and not try and kind of reinvent the wheel. We've heard some people have already got there before, but it's actually, some of this stuff is actually quite basic. It's about, we've all got so used to overcomplicating things. If you go back to Richard's example of the LMS suppliers, you know, they're all becoming more and more and more unwieldy, and it gets to the point where actually to really get to the learner and get the learner to have what they want, you're having to fudge the system because they're so clunky and big. And sometimes going back to simple is the best, and people will buy it. So,
sorry, yeah. Kathy, I should actually say, the one thing that I've been impressed with actually is our LMS supplier and his Cornerstone, and the one trend that I see in the USP when you actually look downstairs at the LMS suppliers out there is that Cornerstone have actually started to think about this. And this isn't a plug for Cornerstone, they've actually thought now about the user experience and how can we make it more like like the Facebooks of this world. And for me, that's a bit of a breath of fresh air. And the more I suppose we in this room force the vendors downstairs to move in this direction, then the better for us as learning professionals, and also the better for the learners at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So, much anticipated session from Sue now. So Sue Husband is Head of Education UK at McDonald's. She's had a variety of big operational roles since joining, including responsibility for all the restaurants in South Wales, whether they were company or franchise restaurants, and then some great secondments as well. The most recent one of those actually looking after central communications for 400 restaurants. So that's given her a really diverse view of the organisation and a really good skill set. And I'm just going to hand over to Sue to have her tell us her story.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I wanted to start by just letting you know a little bit about myself. I actually joined McDonald's in 1987, and unlike Kathy, I wasn't 5. Sadly, I was 16. I was doing my A-levels, and I started work on a Saturday, just working on a till, a very simple till, a till that had a limit about the amount of items you could actually put in it. So if you had a big order from a customer, you had to put it in 2 separate parts. So technology's moved on a lot since then. When I was just 22, I was running a multi-million-pound restaurant with 150 employees. And that was back in the day when obviously there were no computers, mobile phones or tablets in the business. We were quite slow to bring technology into McDonald's, believe it or not. But I understood then the value of learning. And now, in the role of education manager for the McDonald's in the UK, which is a position I really feel very privileged to hold, I'm really aware that in order to do my job well, I've got to surround myself with great people, but also great partners who really understand and appreciate the full potential of learning technologies. At McDonald's, we want to work with organisations who understand our business, our culture, and most importantly, have the same aspirations for our people that we do. We want partners who we can collaborate with to deliver robust, high-quality programmes that will build the confidence of our people and help them to deliver improved results for the business. And that's why we partner with respected institutions such as Learn Direct and City and Guilds Kineo. And it's not just about the ease of that relationship either, sorry, I thought that might happen, but also the strength of that relationship. And I think one thing that I've learned over time is we don't really want businesses that are easy to work with. We want businesses that are challenging, who are going to support us to continue to build the standards in our business. And I think where technology is concerned, we're going to innovate. I think it would also be helpful if I told you a little bit about McDonald's. In case you don't know, we sell hamburgers. We have about 1,250 restaurants in the UK, and we employ over 97,000 young people. We're pretty good at what we do. We're known to be able to serve about 4 million customers a day in the UK at the moment. They've come to expect a certain standard of product from us, day in, day out. And in order to do that, we have to have well-trained people, people who are able to deliver that consistency for us. We hire individuals who share our commitment to delivering great quality service for our customers. And that means that rather than selecting individuals on their qualifications, we select them for the qualities that they can bring to the business, so the right attitude, which means that if you go into any given one of our restaurants, you will see people who are joining us with few or no qualifications, working alongside someone who might actually be studying to do a degree. I'd like to share with you our overarching people strategy, because I think that strategy helps to link our people with ultimately the business performance, and it'll help to explain why we use learning technology as we do. We took the well-known Harvard Business School service profit chain model as our starting point, and supported by further internal research, we found that for a quick service restaurant such as McDonald's, it's the 3 C's: commitment, competence and confidence, which impact on the service that our customers get, and in turn obviously sales and then profitability. In short, the foundations of giving our customers a great experience is staff who've got an emotional connection to the business, and that's what we call commitment. But commitment is largely worthless without competence, and that's around the skills and the knowledge that that employee needs in order to deliver the end result. And an individual also needs confidence, the self-belief, which is such a barrier to progress for people who work for us, particularly young people. We then asked ourselves two very simple questions. What does our business need from our people? In other words, what is it that we need our people to do if we're going to achieve our desired outcomes? And then what do our people value about working for us? And the key thing here is to understand that it's what our people really value. This isn't about us imposing value on them. It's about finding out from them what's important. As I say, very simple questions, but we found the answer to these questions can unlock a massive amount of passion, energy, and commitment, and that's making a real difference to not just the individuals, but to our business. Because when you look at the answers to these questions, you invariably find that there are some common themes. For example, we found that the answer to the question, what does the business need from our people, is well-trained employees. More specifically, employees who've worked hard on our training programs to develop the skills our business needs and who use those skills to deliver a great experience for the customer. At the same time, one of the answers to the question, what do our people value about working for McDonald's, the answer is being able to develop workplace skills. So getting transferable skills, recognised qualifications that are going to really enhance that individual's employability and help them ultimately to achieve their personal ambitions. Now, neither of these insights I know are particularly surprising in themselves, but we have realised the really great benefit of putting those two things together and truly engaging our people. And skills development is in our DNA. It's been an important part of the way that we've done business for over half a century. Our quality training, for want of a better description, is training which supports jobs that offer variety and challenge, team working and interaction with the customer. Training which is delivered using the preferred learning styles of our people, and training which is aligned to nationally recognised qualifications. Quality training that has made a real difference to the lives of our people, because we've found that where individuals join us from a disadvantaged background, quality training has enhanced their confidence and their self-esteem, often reigniting their desire to learn and their ambition to progress. And where individuals with higher aspirations join us, a 2009 study by Leeds Met found that around 85% of our people were getting into their first choice of university, compared with a national average at the time of 70%. And that's a significant difference. So wherever you've got to in the business, there's a clear pathway ahead for your career development, each step of the way supported by the relevant training and personal development. This clarity, plus the presence of role models from restaurant floor to senior management, creates a culture of aspiration. Our people see their colleagues attending programs, studying hard, applying what they've learned, move through the hierarchy. Now, something I haven't mentioned yet is, but you may be aware of it, 3/4 of our employees are aged between 16 and 24. So it's no surprise that many of these exhibit the characteristics you'd associate with so-called Generation Y. And that means our people respond best to training and education that's collaborative rather than individual, is visual rather than verbal, and which is based on information to solve problems rather than simply memorising information. In short, a style of learning that couldn't be further than that found on the traditional classroom-based training course, but is perfectly suited and in many ways has really been shaped by the use of online technology. And we use a blended learning model where our online learning complements the training that our people receive in restaurants and in the formal classroom environment. And I'm a huge fan of online learning, but it is really important to stress that the role of the coach and the wider pastoral care, I think, from the restaurant team, whether that be advice or guidance or simply a little encouragement, it's absolutely crucial. So we've taken our established training programs, so training programs where they're designed to deliver things for the business, and realign them in a way that ensures they also create real value for our people. And this sort of alignment has allowed us to create what we call a learning ladder or a career path. It's a long-term, ongoing training and development curriculum designed to enable an individual to grow within the business at the same time that they acquire transferable skills and experience. Through our learning programs, we've seen a widening of the managerial talent pool. as individuals' confidence grow, and quite simply they just put themselves forward for promotion now, whereas before they may have not felt confident enough to do that. More than this, we've seen that our apprentices move through to higher levels, and now more than half of our first level of management have come through our apprenticeship programme route. And this is nothing new to McDonald's. Indeed, its commitment to training and development of our people goes back to really when the McDonald's Corporation first started. But it's a commitment which over the years has paid enormous dividends. Currently in the UK, for example, more than 90% of our restaurant managers started off, like I did, working as a crew member. The average tenure of a restaurant manager is 15 years. So it's clearly a commitment that's good for business. And over the past 5 to 6 years, we've sought to make it even more valuable for our employees too, by aligning all of our key programmes with nationally recognised qualifications. So today our qualifications begin at level 1 and 2 functional skills in literacy and numeracy, through apprenticeships, and extend right the way up to a foundation degree in managing business operations. But to achieve these results, you need partners. And those partners need to be aligned to your approach and to help really inspire learning. And I'll just touch now on the path that our learners go on when they're studying for one of our online learning programmes, the literacy and numeracy qualifications with Learn Direct. So when studying for functional skills, the vast majority of a learner's learning actually takes place online. And in order to support that journey, we ensure that our crew have a really clear idea of what they're getting involved in from day one. So our communications are really clear and simple. And this is the learner journey infographic that you see now that we use in restaurants and online. So after an induction in the restaurant, learners are invited to complete their online diagnostic. They get updates and alerts, gently nudging them in the right direction, little and often, simple, clear messages of encouragement. They then complete their diagnostic at home, at work, wherever they feel most comfortable, and really importantly, and this is the beauty of online learning, at their own pace. If they aren't progressing, we nudge them again, with a little support from within the restaurant. Again, that pastoral care is really key here. Contact is then made with their tutor, and I think one of the vital learns we've had here is that Learn Direct have sent all of their tutors into our restaurants to work at least one shift, and that's made an enormous difference when they're talking to the learners, to just be able to talk in the same language, to just little nuggets of things that they can show that they empathise with them, and it really helps. The learner again gets learning at their pace, as I've already mentioned, get a lot of support, but they also need a fair amount of self-motivation. And that support they get is really important. Obviously, around the literacy and numeracy is the most fundamental bit, but actually that encouragement, that guidance is so important too. And then, of course, at the end, we make sure that we celebrate with them. And I think, it's a great example of where learning technologies have really revolutionised the way that our employees learn. And all of that journey actually takes place here on our lounge, which is our employee portal. This was developed in 2006, and it was actually developed to support our maths and English programmes, allowing them to study day to day for their literacy and numeracy. But since it's launched, it's actually become the primary way that we communicate and engage with our hourly paid workforce. It's been an essential tool in promoting our key business messages, equipping employees with the knowledge to improve their job performance, but in a fun and informative way. Again, think about sort of Generation Y. So all of our national marketing campaigns are now promoted on this site 2 weeks before our customers see them. There are games and quizzes, and it really just engages the employees. They also go on there to check their schedules, to swap shifts with fellow employees, and just connect with each other. And they even get the opportunity to write articles for this. We've found that using online technology as part of that blended learning strategy has created a massive benefit for the business, because it means now that we can deliver on a scale that would be extremely expensive and time-consuming using traditional methods. We can update our materials instantly and at fairly low cost, and we can use the latest gamification techniques to create training programs that our people actually enjoy. The McDonald's Crew Challenge is a great example, and this is something that City and Guilds Kineo designed for us. It was a game to support the rollout of a new till system. Our staff were invited to respond to a range of customer service challenges against the clock, and the response was amazing. Crew and managers were creating league tables of the best times, within their teams. And this was till training. This is something that long ago would have been seen as an absolute chore. But but it really underlines the value that a creatively developed and effectively deployed online training and engagement strategy can deliver. And what we've done is actually attempted to assess the scale of business impact engaging our employees digitally has had. So early last year, we brought together the employee survey responses for over 100,000 of our restaurant staff in 17 markets across Europe. We then ranked this data according to the levels of digital engagement that individual employees are experiencing in those markets, and then split them into 3 approximately equally sized groups: low, medium, high engagement. We then aggregated all the data for these 3 groups and calculated the score of a number of people factors. And as you can see, the results are striking. So in short, where employees are experiencing the highest levels of digital engagement, we find significantly higher levels of customer satisfaction, significantly lower levels of employee turnover, and significantly higher levels of employee pride and commitment. Clear evidence for like a business like ours that the investment in digital engagement is one worth making. And the wider business results in the UK speak for themselves. You hopefully remember this slide from the beginning. Every year we undertake a confidential staff survey right across the organisation, a survey that's delivered via that online portal, Our Lounge, which consistently achieves around an 85% return rate. So we've got a great deal of confidence in that data. There's been a dramatic shift in the scores for commitment, competence and confidence over the last few years. So our commitment levels have gone up from 77% in 2004 to 91% in 2012. Competence has gone up from 86 to 96, and confidence has significantly improved from 68 to 87%. Business performance has massively improved too. In 2013, we served more than 100 million people, more than we did in 2012. Customer satisfaction is at an all-time high, and the UK business continues to grow in a very difficult climate. And our restaurant teams are acknowledged as vital contributors to these results. Since 2005, our customer service opportunity scores have improved markedly, and that's reaching an all-time low of just over 17%. So more of our customers are telling us that they're satisfied. Trust me, this graph on a trending down is good. Our people are more satisfied too. Our overall turnover has more than halved, and our 90-day turnover has virtually been eradicated. It's a sure sign that we're actually attracting the right people into our business now for the right reasons, and we're delivering on the promises that we make to them from day one. At the same time, as I've said, commitment and pride have never been higher, but all of that is our own data. What we also do is encourage other people from outside of the business come in and see what we're doing, not just our customers, and I'm glad to say that they like what they see too. Because it's recognition like this which gives all of us at Learn Direct, City and Guilds Kineo and McDonald's the confidence that we're really making a difference to our business and a difference to those individuals who work for us. So that's an overview of our skills and education initiatives. I think working in collaboration with Learn Direct and City and Guilds Kineo, we've developed a suite of qualifications with which the business needs and with our employees very much in mind. The key learnings that we've had are alignment of business as usual training to recognise qualifications yields multiple benefits, get more commitment from our employees to training and effective execution of that training. We've reduced our employee turnover. We've definitely strengthened our talent pipeline, and also at the same time had a wonderful benefit of enhancing our employer reputation. And I'd say really the key thing here is it's vital that when you do work like this that you really pick your partners carefully. Thank you.
Wow, okay. What a great way to wrap up the day with 2 speakers giving us some real food for thought in terms of value and the impact that we make on our businesses. So who's got a question for either of the speakers or both? Have we got someone with a mic? Or am I doing my running round thing again?
You can borrow mine.
Can you grab the mic? There's a speaker at the back there, yeah.
Hi there. I had a question for Richard. I was really interested in the point you made about structuring your learning department as a separate business within the greater business. I just wondered if you had any more sort of points about how you've done that and how that's been successful.
I mean, from my perspective, it's the proof is in the pudding. I think, as I said, in terms of we've been able to grow a department when the rest of the business is actually cutting back. I think the other proof of the pudding is that we get more and more engagement from the business. It's an open playbook. They know exactly what we deliver for exactly what price, and therefore they can go and benchmark us against other suppliers or against what they can do locally. In terms of actually doing it, I suppose the last thing you want to do is actually create a cottage industry around some of this. So as I said, having an LMS or the platform to be able to automate some of that calculations and to be able to automate the actual chargebacks is critical. The last thing I want to be doing is paying someone to be messing around with a spreadsheet. But ultimately, I think it comes back to what I said. If you don't understand your costs and you don't understand them by employee, then how can you get a handle on whether they're good value for money, poor value for money in comparison to the marketplace? So I really come back to that, understand how much it costs to deliver what you're delivering by employee. And then you can go out there and you can benchmark them and you can understand, are we cost effective? Are we delivering good value? And that's really the key starting point. I suppose we were very lucky in that it was a greenfield site and I could structure it like that right at the start. But these are key statistics that are on any, in my experience, balance sheet or departmental budget. So it's just a case of getting hold of them, understanding the payroll costs, and then divide it by the employees you're actually serving.
Actually, I'd be quite interested, as you've asked for tips and hints and pointers. We've got some people at the front here from DHL Deutsche Post who have done a very similar thing within their business. Could we have the mic up here so maybe you could also answer that question and share what you've done and how you've done it?
We set ourselves up as an internal service provider in 2004, and we charge for our services either by a daily rate or something based on activity-based, value-based costing, that type of thing. And we charge it out to the business. And in our experience, nobody pays for something they don't want or need. And it's revolutionized our training provision. And we are attached now to major global projects for Deutsche Post DHL as an internal service provider. And I guess that's cash in the company rather than out of the company. And our LMS had 120,000 licensed learners last year, and about 95% of those were actively learning, and an average of 5 courses was completed by each person. And I still get quite goosepimply when I read the reports that someone in Laos completed a course, or someone in, I don't know where, Sub-Sahara, because these people traditionally would never have had any development at all. And one of our most recent productions is in 24 different languages, including Arabic and Hebrew. So we're still on the journey, but it's been worthwhile from my point of view.
That's fantastic. Would you mind just standing up to the gentleman at the back and identify you? I'm sure you'd like to maybe catch up with them. She's only little. Thank you. Yeah, over there.
We've heard a lot today about the value, or looking at the value of the training apparatus, the learning apparatus within both your organisations. We've not heard a great deal about demonstrating the value of the learning that you have provided to the business. And I was wondering whether either of you could, or both of you could, let us know how you measure that. What value, or how do you value the learning that you provide to your workforce?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Sorry. Well, let me use Richard's talk as an example. When you said that you came in at 8K rather than 80K for the Talking Heads video, and that's a clear benefit in spending less. what did that particular training intervention provide to your workforce, and how do you measure that in terms of return on investment?
Shall I start then, because
By
I
all
understand the
means.
question now. So our biggest thing is about operations. So I put the picture of the Big Mac at the beginning purely for the reason that the idea with McDonald's is that you go anywhere in the world and it looks like the picture. It's a daily challenge, as you can imagine. So for us, the biggest way to measure that the training that we've given people is effective is in our operational standards. And we're obsessed with auditing in McDonald's. You know, the way that we always improve and we keep things to the same standard is we audit all of our restaurants all of the time. And we have something called a restaurant operation improvement process. It's all about continual improvement. So we have very clear measures it's about 750 different, levels for each restaurant that we can directly compare. And we can show that when our training's being done properly and people follow the whole, I showed a path on there, but if somebody goes through the whole path, and their workbooks, when we mark them to a really high standard, there's an absolute direct correlation between that and their restaurant operation improvement process scores. And that for us is the ultimate result, and what it's value to the business, because we know if our restaurants operate at a higher standard, the customers will go back to those restaurants more frequently. And we're starting to do some work on the value of the lifetime customer if they are getting the best experience. And, you can imagine it's tens of thousands per sort of family or something. It's a lot of money to the business to get people coming back because what they're getting is consistent. So I think for business, that's what they think about is the training you're giving, making our restaurants run properly. So.
And from Rentokil Initial's perspective, I suppose, we're still pretty much in our infancy, but right from day one, we've always said that for any learning program that we do, whether it's on class, on job, online, we want to be measuring the KPIs that it affects. So for all the key programs that are non-compliance, we measure at a level 4 on a Kirkpatrick scale. But as I said, a lot of the organisation aren't necessarily, the business leaders don't necessarily want to know that. They want to know, have we trained our guys in the health and safety course? So I suppose we're in as McDonald's is maybe at the upper end of maturity in that regard, we're probably at the lower end. The one piece I would say that we've started to do specifically with sales is actually take that information out of the LMS, actually put it into Salesforce, do some statistical analysis on it, and we can actually now start to prove that specific courses are statistically having an improvement on specific sales figures. We've still got a lot to do in that regard, and I still think analytics is pretty much in its infancy from a learning perspective. But I think there'll be a lot more in the next few years where learning providers are actually integrating with things like Salesforce so that it will do the analytics on your behalf. I suppose the one thing that I challenge my guys on is it's not just providing the stats and the data, but it's also making sure it's statistically valid, because a lot of the time with these surveys, you maybe only get a small response rate, and my experience is actually, I could turn around to you here and say if someone does a course then they're going to sell twice as much, but actually a lot of the time it's not statistically valid, and does that answer the question?
Great. Any other questions? Yeah, one there.
Richard, I think you've partially answered this anyway, but I was struck by your thing saying the centre doesn't always know best, but you touched on compliance, which was the last talk before, and obviously there's certain mandatory training that has to take place. If you're opening up that freedom where people can go to other suppliers, how do you ensure that the core messages the business wants to get across are adhered to?
I mean, it's a good challenge. My experience with compliant personally within Rentokil Initial is if we go, here is a central course, would you like to use it, or would you like to go off and procure your own course or create your own course? The chances are if it's there and they can lift it and shift it off the shelves, and 99.9% of the time they do, they don't, at the end of the day, my experience is, unless you're in the learning industry, you don't really want to get involved in it. They'd rather take something that's developed and lift and shift, as I would say. The exception for that is things like local local government and local legislation. But for me, if we are providing a compliance course and we've got a requirement to do compliance across the globe, then actually that should be something that we take into account as part of the requirements gathering and the training needs. There's no point in giving them something that just isn't fit for purpose in that regard.
That's great, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I guess that brings us to the end of the first day of Learning Technologies 2014. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming along to the sessions and participating so fully, and great questions, by the way, so thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Do speak up. If you're sitting there in one of these sessions tomorrow and you think, I've done this, I know how this works, I've got something to offer. One of the really great things about this event is actually learning from the other people at the event, not just the speakers. So do try and make yourself known to others when you have something that's really valuable, you've got a great story to tell, because we obviously can only have so many speakers, but there's 500 people at this event. So we're going to break now. There's a cocktail reception outside at 4:30. So tomorrow back here, we'll be kicking off at 9:45 tomorrow morning with Don, networking anytime from 8:30, so coffee and so on, and another great day of sessions to follow. So see you then. Thanks very much.